Alright guys. So, good evening everybody. My name is JJ Lowe. And Dennis asked me to talk about a chapter that you guys have been reading in this book. It's called Money and Finance, I believe. Yes. So this chapter on money and finance speaks of self-control and why we need it. And credit cards that ruin lives with high interest rates. It speaks of the differences between luxury and need. And writing everything that we spend down. Inspiring others to give and to be generous in ourselves. This book it has some good topics, but I'm not going to talk about this book. Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all I'm going to say about the book. I'm not going to talk about the book. I'm going to, because I think you came here for something more than just a synopsis of the book. Right? Yeah. I think you came here for something more. You're probably thinking that I'm going to give you a bunch of how-tos, right? In fact, that's the title of my speech, right? How to save money. I'm not going to do that. Okay, you know why I'm not going to do that? I'm going to illustrate my point. How many here would be astonished to realize that it takes discipline to save money? Raise your hands. How many people are astonished? No. Astonished, right? Okay, I knew Caleb was going to raise his hand. He's astonished to find out that it takes discipline to save money. But we know this, right? We know it takes discipline. So why, given that we know this, do we still do the contrary? Right? And if knowledge is not enough, then what keeps us fighting for that discipline in life? And I think that is a more interesting question. And to answer that, I'm going to take you to Zaire, the Rumble in the Jungle. Do you guys know that? Rumble in the Jungle. Muhammad Ali versus George Foreman. Okay, so I'm gonna give you a little synopsis. I know you don't have to be a boxing fan to understand this, right? It's boxing, by the way. Yes. So Rumble in the Jungle. It was 7 years. Okay, you all know Muhammad Ali. Yes. You all know Muhammad Ali. This was Rumble in the Jungle was about 7 years after he was banned from boxing for refusing to fight the Vietnam War. So this was 7 years after. This was on the downside of his career. During that time, between being banned and Rumble in the Jungle, he fought two guys, Sonny Liston and Joe Frazier, and he was demolished by both. Sonny Liston actually broke his jaw during the fight. So he was overweight, under condition, and he was set to fight George Foreman, who was the champion at that time. George Foreman, age 25. Muhammad Ali was 32 at the downside of his career. George Foreman, age 25, was in the prime of his life. It was said they measured his punch, and it turns out his punch could kill a man. If he punched you in the solar plexus, which is right here, he could kill you. One punch. That's all it took. He would go 15 minutes with a heavy bag. And afterwards, there'd be a dent the size of a watermelon in that heavy bag. Wow. Moreover, he was a good cornering man. A cornering man is somebody who is good at fighting dancing boxers, which was Muhammad Ali's specialty. He could corner him. Cornering man means that you have the agility and the strength to move the dancing boxer into the corner for the pounding of their lives. Right? That was his specialty. And to top it all off, the two guys that beat Ali, Foreman demolished them. He demolished Joe Frazier. He knocked him down 7 times in the fight. And he did away with Sonny Liston in 2 rounds. Right? Wow. So if I were a betting man, right, those 2 things, I would put my money on George Foreman. Yeah, for sure. But I would be wrong, because here's how the fight went. In round 1, now Ali was a dancing boxer, but he didn't dance. He stayed flat-footed against the ropes, receiving punches by George Foreman. He did throw some punches. He did this thing called he threw what is called a right hand lead. Now, a right hand lead is not done in professional boxing. Right hand lead is when you fake with the right and you punch with the left. And it's not done in regular boxing, in professional boxing, because it's a slow punch, because your left hand has to travel really far to hit the target. In fact, if you ever try to throw a right hand lead in professional boxing, you're actually insulting your opponent. You're saying to that opponent that he is so slow that you think this is going to work.
Oh, wow.
And Ali threw not just one right hand lead, he threw 12.
Whoa,
oh my God. What a guy.
Right, 12 in the first round. That drew, George Foreman just went nuts.
Yeah.
So round two to 5 was more of the same thing. Ali against the ropes, blocking George Foreman's punching, occasional punch here and there, but he was absorbing all those punches. Round 6 and 7, you could see that George was getting tired. And Ali was continuing some steady punching. By round 8, George Foreman was out of gas. In the middle of round 8, he fell after steady punching with Ali. Now, right, so I think you all recognize this kind of story. This is a underdog story, right?
Yeah.
The underdog who's under condition, with grit, determination, brilliance of strategy, beats his opponent, beats down the giant. Right? And we take those stories and we take the strategies that they use to beat the giants and we file it away for some later dates to encourage ourselves. But I'm not interested in the strategies it takes to bring down the giants. I think a better question is, what are the strategies that keep us going while the giant is pounding us? I think that is a better question. And to answer that, I'm going to take you to the domain of neuroscience.
Oh,
Now, okay, don't worry. It's very superficial. You're not endangered of loving neuroscience or getting a degree from what I'm saying. Don't worry. I'm just going to give you a very superficial overview of neuroscience. So we are all two people. We have this side called the limbic system. It's actually in the center of our brains. It is the fight or flight. It is the system that when that saber-toothed tiger came around the corner, it is that system that kicked in and got your legs running faster than you ever thought possible and further, right? Mm. And we have another side, which is the intellectual. It's the rational part. It's the neocortex. It is the side that that allows you to appreciate a good Robert Frost poem, read Shakespeare, things like that. And it's so we got these two sides. We got the dumb animal side, right? And we got this rational thinker side. Now, sadly, this is the unfair part. Sadly, God saw it fit to give the decision-making power to the dumb animal. Sorry, I didn't point to you. I pointed to you. Sorry. Mistake. Taken away from the camera. Anyways, right? No, animal over here. Yeah. So, okay. The decision, yeah, Kayla, don't make that mistake either. The decision-making power is with the dumb animal right here. Dumb animal. And it has to be there. Actually, okay, he designed it that way, but it actually makes sense, right? Because if that saber-toothed tiger comes around the corner, you don't want to be thinking, should I run? Or should I appreciate the beauty of this giant beast hurtling towards me or something? You don't want to be thinking those things. You just want to be running. Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So we have an animal that has the decision-making power. Now so it is. Let me just check my notes here. Oh yes. Okay. So this system works well with saber-toothed tigers. But what if we want to go 15 rounds with a monster? What's going to keep us in that ring when that that dumb animal is screaming for us to get out? The answer is belief. Belief. Nothing is going to affect you more in life. Nothing is going to affect you more in life than your belief about what things mean. Nothing is going to affect you more in your life than your belief in what things mean.
That's true.
You could be the smartest person, like you could be the top 1% in terms of intelligence. You could go to Harvard, and you could still think you're dumb. Why? Because when you see Jimmy over there mastering organic chemistry and you can't, right? That dumb animal is going to say, see, you can't do it. Right? Yeah. It's because that dumb animal is not focused on macroeconomics or world rankings. It worries about saber-toothed tigers and Jimmy, right? Right? So, if we are controlled by belief from this dumb animal, do you think it's possible to control the animal with belief? Right? Mm-hmm. And to answer that, I'm going to take you back to the rumble in the jungle. All right, so I described the events, but I didn't give you the context. So during the rumble in the jungle, it happened during a time where Black Americans were ashamed of their African roots. And in fact, if you call the Black American African, that would be cause for them to fight. The reason why is that in America, Africa was associated with Tarzan, was associated with jungle, tribes, was associated with being primitive. So there was a shame that Black Americans were feeling about their roots. Mm. And Ali bought into it. But then he boarded a plane to Zaire, and he saw that the pilots were Black Africans. And he was astonished, and he said, you know, the Africans are doing jobs that Black Americans only aspire to have, being pilots and being professionals. And he saw that in his mission, was to give pride to the Black Americans, to show them their roots, that their roots they have noble roots, to give them a sense of pride so that they can become something better. I'm going to quote you one of his, what he was saying, what he said in an interview before the rumble in the jungle. So Ali said, I want to fight for prestige, not for me, but to uplift my brothers who are sleeping on concrete floors, blacks living on welfare, Black people who can't eat, who don't know themselves, who have no future. I'm going to win my title and walk down that alley, talk to the dope addicts, to the prostitutes, to the winos, so I can help a lot of people, to show them this documentary, to show them Africans. In fact, Ali was creating something to fight for. You know, there's two men that were going to Zaire. Foreman, he was a man that had someone to fight with. But Ali had something to fight for. And we could tell that this belief was really hard, because at the end of the first round, you could see he was debating to himself, because he just received a huge beating from Foreman, right? He received probably the hardest punches known to man for one round, and you could see some doubt and fear in his eyes, and you could see him talking to himself. And the things that he was speaking of was probably those beliefs, that why I'm here, what am I here for, right? And you could see him nodding and trying to convince himself. I could see that he was talking to that dumb animal. And that dumb animal must have been saying things like, could you handle another 14 rounds of this, right? It is insane how much evidence that animal had to fight, right? To convince him to quit. And you could see him nod. And probably what he was nodding was trying to convince himself that it was worth it. That it's worth it to fight for Black America. You know, in life, it's hard to, it's easy to imagine things being hard. I think the hard thing is to imagine that things are worth it, to believe that things are worth it. And so let's take it back to finances, right? Because that's my job. Take it back to finances. Right? So I think before we start any strategies on finances, the one thing that we gotta figure out is, what does this thing mean? A dollar. What does this mean? Because to some people, the lack of it means poverty. It means a shame, a sort of shame. And you know what? When you live under shame like that, the thing you do to cope is to not feel poor. And what do you do when you want to feel not poor? Is you spend more money, right? And I can understand that. I've done that. But there could be another meaning. Another meaning meaning impact. That this is my chance to make another chance to make my impact. It could mean that. And so saving it doesn't seem so shameful anymore. Right? What we believe about money is going to dictate our actions. And I know it's hard, like Ali, to believe in that. Because when the world doesn't add up and everything seems against you, it's hard to believe. It's hard to believe. Mm-hmm. But in those moments, when you are in the depths of despair and things are not looking good, what you can say to that dumb animal is that it's worth it. It's worth it. So I said, I'm not going to talk about how-tos, but I think I lied a lot during this thing. It's on tape, man. I don't know.
It's a good thing you're your own boss, man.
Yeah. Jeez, the things I do. Okay, so I want to talk about beliefs. Okay, and I want because the thing is, I talked about the how. I'm going to talk about how-tos. I had to go through all that because I needed you to have some context to what I'm saying, right? So. You have to notice in that story that belief is blind, has a certain level of blindness to the belief, right? Did Ali do research saying that, well, this is a need and I know that they don't feel this and I'm the one to do it? He didn't do any of that. Did someone inspire him? No. He just said, he looked at something and he said, I'm going to be the one that does that, right? So you don't need a lot of research to believe. If you require a lot of research to believe, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough, right? I think that's one of the qualities of Ali that I admire the most. He believed he was the greatest. How did he know? Right? He didn't know, and yet he said he was the greatest. And I believe that there's a certain level of blindness to a belief, an optimum level. Now, I'm not speaking to I'm not speaking to you like Christians. Don't get me wrong. I would say this to other people, regular people, regular people, right? Because I know, because Christians, when you speak to Christians, you expect Christians to have a certain level of blind faith. That's what we call faith, right? Blind faith. But I'm not speaking about that. I'm speaking of actually that there is a legitimate reason to have blind belief. Right. There's okay, so a lot of things behave in this, what we call it, inverted U-shaped curve. I wish now I had. Okay, just imagine an axis, right? And an inverted U-shaped curve, right? So the x-axis is amount and the y-axis is benefit, right? So you can imagine there are times where if you add something, it gets better, right? And then there's times where you add something, it doesn't really make much difference. And then there are times where you add something and it makes things worse, right? We all know blind belief makes things worse, right? Scientology, all those crazy, there's some crazy religions out there that really benefit from people destroying themselves from blind belief, right? But is there a minimum? Is there a minimum? Can you be too clear on your beliefs and that being a bad thing? And the truth is, yes. The people who have the most accurate judge of their impact that know exactly how much that they can impact this world. You know who they are? They are the clinically depressed, right? Because the truth is, I have no effect on anybody. I have zero effect. And if I go through life believing that, which is accurate, I'm going to be depressed. So there's a point where blind belief can be too accurate. Like belief can be too accurate, and there's a point where belief is too unclear. So Ali had the best range, right? How do you know? I don't know. But what I do know is that if your belief is about other people, it tends to be worth it, right? I know some people are striving hard to live a retired life, and their belief is that relaxation is good, right? Which it is, I'm not denying that. But it's hard to get you to believe that, right? It's hard for me to make money so that I can relax. You might think logically that neocortex is good at rationalizing, yeah, I have incentives, so why not, right? But the truth is, the one who's speaking is a dumb animal, and it's going to say that you're selfish. Why do you want this goal? And the truth is, I don't know if I want that goal. So a belief in others, working for others, is something that is, I believe, is important for you to convince yourself that it's worth it. And the last thing, and then we can open it up for a Q&A. The last thing is life. The last thing I want you guys to believe is that life is not about addition. It's about multiplication, right? So I'm an Asian, so I have to put in some math.
Race to this area.
Yeah. What do I mean by math? Okay, addition versus multiplication. Okay, a lot of people talk about, and even Christians talk about this, that your whole goal is to add good things in your life and subtract bad things, right? That's how you improve your life, right? Mm-hmm. But what if you could take your disadvantages and make them advantages? Are there disadvantages in your advantages? That's what I call multiplication, because when you multiply something by -1, right, it flips it. It flips it from a bad to a good, and actually a good can become a bad, right? Are there disadvantages and advantages? And are there advantages and disadvantages? And the answer is absolutely yes, right? I'll give you one example. Laziness, right? I'm pretty lazy. And that is a disadvantage, right?
I'd say yes.
Right? But what is the advantage of being lazy? Is there no disadvantage?
Yeah, there is.
What's the advantage?
Well, you find shortcuts.
Find shortcuts. That's actually, that's a pretty good advantage. Computer programmers are inherently lazy. I would say too, as well, laziness. What laziness really means, the advantage of being lazy is that the behavior of that dumb animal is predictable, right? Predictable. So if you make it incredibly hard to do bad things and incredibly easy to do good things, that dumb animal is too lazy to do the bad things, and it does the good things. I'll give you some research. There's some research on this. I'm not speaking out of like nothing. I got something. I'm gonna give you research. Sean Acor, a Harvard researcher, he talked about happiness, right? And he talked about the 20-second rule. Okay, so what he was researching on happiness, and he had this problem where he was watching a bit too much TV. I think you could all relate to that. I'm too, right? Watching a lot of TV. Internet maybe too. Right?
Netflix counts.
Netflix, that's right. So he had this problem of watching too much TV. So what he did was, he took the batteries out of his remote and walked them 20 seconds to a drawer, and he put the batteries in there, right? So, okay, you got to remember, he knew where the batteries were. It's not like he had some amnesia and then did something to his mind. He knew where the batteries were. He knew how long it took to get there, right? So that was the neocortex, the rational side, kicking in, making that decision. Now the animal side comes out after work. When you're tired, right? You're tired, sit on the couch, reach for the remote, and you don't get no. And then he curses himself for playing these stupid experiments on himself. And then, but it's not enough to do that, right? You have to put things around you to make it easier, right? So he put a book on the table that he was wanting to read. In fact, he told people he read it already, and he hadn't. And he wanted to play the guitar, so he moved the guitar from the den to the living room next to the TV. Right? So it was incredibly easy to do that, and incredibly hard to walk and get the batteries from the living. So I followed that with exercise. I do 4 kilometers a day, and because it's really incredibly easy to take a shower at the YMCA, and really hard to do it at home. I did that. I had to engineer it that way. And, I think we always think that people who are disciplined live this kind of supernatural life where they wake up and they love life and they're like gung-ho and doing it. Truth is, truth is, honestly, I'm going to leave you with this. Truth is, honestly, it's hard work. It takes a lot of work just to wake up in the morning and to believe that you're worthy of connection. It is hard. It is hard. But I find that, and you'll find that the people who are the most shame resilient, the people that can endure a lot of shame, are the ones. They're not the smartest. They're not the healthiest. They're not the most. They're not the ones who do the most. They're the ones who believe, just believe, without any evidence that they're worthy of connection. And so I'm going to open up the floor for some Q&A.